So hello and welcome to this video on the Metasonix RK-2, XS VCA and RK-3 ringer and shaper. This off angle because we have mega tube sticking out at the front and a slightly tubbier, smaller tube on the RK-3. Now the RK-2 is a VCA with warming, glorious, just kind of thick and juicy tube drive to all out, kick you in the nuts, run off with your sweets and pocket money and send you home crying to your mum. It's absolute sonic destruction at some of the settings. There is a CV input to use it as a standard VCA. We have two outputs, they're phase inverted, so you can create pseudo stereo fake effects where one is out of phase with the other. They do phase cancel down into mono, as any two signals are completely out of phase with each other do. But you could patch the phase inverted version back into a mixer and into itself or elsewhere in a patch for some really killer feedback and even more sonic destruction if this doesn't offer enough. It can also just be used as a straight preamp as well. Sounds great with drums, guitars, synths, anything I've thrown at it. The RK-3 has a weird irregular pulse sinking wave shaper that's similar or based around a phase locked loop, a PLL. And these irregular pulses sync with the input wave. Now different waveforms coming in have a huge effect on this. Input level just offers some shaping and some drive, which again will go from really subtle, creamy tube drive right through to just square clipping like crazy. The output level clips too. We can tune in this shaping and weird PLL effect, which again is glorious. And there's a carrier input which we can use for a basic onboard ring modulator with level control. Huge range of tones, so let's get into some patches with each of these modules and go from being kicked in the nuts to just being hugged, lovely and warm by some subtle tube drive. Let's get stuck in. So here we have the Metasonix RK-2 XS VCA processing some synth sounds. You can hear these drums in the background and completely nothing to do with this. But they're there just to kind of set the scene. That's my synth sound, a mix of oscillator waves into this happy nerding filter, into the scope on this green trace, and we're currently listening to that on its own. Nicely resonant, which is going to give this tube loads to chew on. So let's move over to the tube VCA. And it's already mangling the hell out of it. Let's take out the modulation, which is currently an envelope, and just play around with the CV offset, which will just open this without the CV anyway, feedback and input level. I love that spitting and spewing noise. But it can do subtle too. Turn the feedback up. Just on the edge of that CV offset, it really kicks out. We can choke it out with feedback. Let's add our envelope modulation back in. Oh, it's so great, it's ace. Let's add some drums back in and just have a play around. The blue trace is the tube output. You can see it clipping the hell out of this input wave. So for this part of the video, I'm going to run a guitar. There's the head of the Telecaster, playing around in the harmonic minor scale. There's the clean input signal. Let's come over to the tube and notice with the no input, it's actually microphonic. Free cowbell sounds from your tube. And noise and spits as well, which is really cool. So let's take the input from the clean guitar, which is the green trace on the data scope, and then coming out into channel 2, blue trace, and straight to recording. So let's just play around. Mega fuzz sustain. So there's a range of massively sustaining fuzz tones, broken up crunchy noisy tones, cleans up with lower input gain, but a couple of things we can do that work really well. We take an LFO into the CV input and it spits at us. Turning this up, input level down a little bit, and we get tremolo. Tremolo plus cowbell. But sticking with the more mad fuzzy style tones, let's come out of the low pass filter right next to the VCA, patch an envelope follower to the filter's cutoff, and patch over from the scope, again that blue trace is the tube output, into the filter, and use this to create lots of distortion. And the filter to control it afterwards. So I'm going to turn the cutoff up slightly. The envelope follower on my preamp for the guitar before this is coming in to the green trace on the data, then the VCA, is what's opening this cutoff. Let's add some res. So that's just a couple of ways you can use this with a guitar. So we've had synths, we've had a guitar, let's run some drums in. Just the Pocket Operator PO12, and this is the dry drum beat. Let's just take a listen. Couple of onboard effects, crunchy, quite gritty, lo-fi-ish beats, plenty of low end. Let's move this over to our free cowbell based tube VCA. I mean, it just sounds ace. One thing we can do again is to run this through the filter next to it and take the envelope follower from the drums and I mean, filtering just works so good with this. Let's use the envelope follower to actually shut the filter down. Leaving the filter wide open in a minute, let's add an LFO to the CV in. I'm going to take this LFO modular in the VCA up to audio rates. Let's try a different pattern. Absolutely ace. So it can be a clean, warming style VCA with very subtle drive. Feedback can introduce a lot of tonal change. We can offset this into being on all the time, CV in. The two outputs are phase inverted, so we can do pseudo stereo, kind of fake stereo sounds, although they cancel out when they go into mono, so it's not particularly effect I enjoy. But we can get some pseudo stereo out of that. Let's move over and check out the RK-3 equally bonkers and amazing wave shaping ring modulator and weird PLL phase lock loop device. So here we have the totally bonkers and ace RK-3 ringer slash shaper. Now it's got a basic ring modulator that will take the input and a carrier, and we can play with the carrier level, but let's just remove this for now, and we're going to start with the shaper. Now the tube itself gives us these irregular pulses that try to sync to the input signal, but it's rather kind of erratic. We get a lot of drive, a lot of character, just absolutely oozes just kind of mojo and interesting wave shaping that's slightly different to everything else that I've heard, a rather unique design. So moving the tune, notice my input level's totally down. That's turning it up. We can bring in some oscillation from this itself. And that's the blue line. So my green line is my actual input, the top trace on data. The yellow line is the carrier signal that's actually unplugged, that we'll use later, a faster sine wave, and the output is the blue trace at the bottom. So just turning up my static triangle wave, notice we just get some more mild clipping to start with. Playing with a tune, there's that erratic PLL phase lock loop style shaping. It's always really cool in between tones. just there where it's on the edge of bringing in those extra mid kind of croaky frequencies. Now turning up my input level. Range of tones again. Let's add a sequence to my input signal. Tune into low or too high, and we pretty much just get tube wave shaping over the input. Which is totally variable with input level. So I'm going to patch this first through a VCA with an envelope opening the VCA, and we can see that on our input trace up at the top. So as this amplitude is changing, this will react differently. Nice and tubby, just kind of tube warming of that triangle. More obvious clipping, a little bit of kind of fuzzy saturation coming in. To all out distortion. Let's bring in that tune, and it will oscillate in between these sounds, because remember, with no input, it will oscillate on its own. Almost makes kind of in-between notes in the sequence. We could maybe try and tune those in. That's just output level, by the way. Clip internally with full output level. I'm just backing this off slightly. So there's loads to explore in there already. Let's remove the sequence. Just turn up my VCA. Set a tone that I like, and let's plug in the yellow signal into the carrier. Turn up the carrier level. And just play with the tuning of this carrier, the yellow trace on the scope. Even more tones to be had. Let's get that sequence going again. And send the sequence to my signal that's providing this carrier. Absolute filth. So it's wicked as a shaper, ring modulator, tube driver, weird phase lock loop kind of thing. Just throw some waveforms in. It's ace. So for this patch that we're going to finish on, I have a mix of drums and some FM kind of synth bass, which is this green trace on the Modax data. The buffered copy is coming into the RK-3, coming back out so you can see it on the blue trace at the bottom, then straight into my mixer for recording. Now this can be just kind of subtle, warming tube drive. It's glorious for that, as are the other Metasonix modules. Just to compare, let's listen to our input signal. So that's a dry input. Now patch that exact sound and sequence into the shaper. Now there's tons of drive on the input, but we can also clip at this output stage. Just a little bit of hair on that. Let's add the tune in for this weird PLL irregular pulse shaping. Some weird interactive like chord tones there from the tuned wave shaping signal and the input. So that's it for these patches and this video on the Metasonix RK-2 XS VCA, tube preamp, distortion, mangler, little bundle of awesomeness, and the RK-3 ringer and shaper, ring modulator, weird irregular pulse syncing phase locked loop shaper. Again, drive, bags of character, subtle, warm, thickening and glorious, or out there completely bonkers. Check out these modules from Metasonix, along with any others. Personally, we've enjoyed the R51, the discontinued VCA, the big yellow modules. There's more of these little guys, there's more of the yellow modules. Go check them out, and thanks for watching.